Hey everybody, Rob Maurer here. Happy Friday. Today we've got a relevant report for Tesla in India and potentially the future in the country for Tesla there. We also have a few updates on FSD Beta, some news from the UAW, and a couple other items as well. All right, looking at the stock, really nice end to the week today, finishing up 3.7% to close at $238.59, while the NASDAQ was up about 1% on the day today. Of course, we did have Fed Chairman Jerome Powell's comments today. Pretty much a reiteration of things we've heard him say in recent FOMC meetings. He said we're prepared to further raise rates if appropriate and tend to hold the policy at a restrictive level until we're confident that inflation is moving sustainably down or toward our objective. So I think mostly the market feeling some relief that comments weren't more hawkish, I guess. He did have kind of an interesting comment about being guided by the stars under cloudy skies. So just kind of shows that they're not really certain what's going to happen, and a reiteration of him saying that they'll continue to observe things as they come in and make decisions from that point. So thankfully, I think in this case, didn't end up being too material to the markets today. If anything, avoiding something more material, probably a positive. All right, so getting into news relevant to Tesla more specifically, we do have a report from Reuters today that says that India, according to people with direct knowledge of the matter, including a senior Indian government official, have said that India is considering a proposal that would allow electric vehicles that are imported into India to be imported at a reduced tax. So currently for vehicles over $40,000, that is 100% import tax, $70,000 for 70% for vehicles less than $40,000. So obviously that's extremely prohibitive. Apparently this proposal would potentially reduce those taxes to as low as 15% if the automaker that would be importing has significant manufacturing locally, or I guess some local manufacturing. How much would be to be determined, I think, and this proposal is still in the early stages. But if this change were to occur, this would be a much clearer path for Tesla in India. Obviously, we know from reports over the last few months that India and Tesla have been engaging in conversations to figure out if Tesla can maybe make an investment there at some point. If they were to do that, something like this would be a very good step to take before that, because Tesla would then be able to build their market a little bit before having to set up a massive manufacturing facility in India. So if they were able to kind of import vehicles, that allows them to start a sales base, start building out superchargers, stores, etc., before having to make that gigafactory sized investment and kind of build the market from nothing. So I think it would be very wise for India to do this. They say that this is going through a lot of deliberations. So this is from the Indian government official. Quote, "This is going to go through a lot of deliberations, even though the government is keen on getting Tesla, and that's because of the impact on domestic players," end quote. So it is still very initial stage right now, but I almost feel like they have to do something like this because, again, 100% import tax, 70% import tax, whatever the case is, no one's going to buy those vehicles. It's just too prohibitive, or no one's significant. So, or not in significant numbers. Significant people sure could, but not in significant numbers. So hopefully we'll see this, progress and be approved at some point. But I think an exciting report potentially for Tesla and their aspirations in India. All right, next we've got a couple updates on FSD. So Elon did say that, this was last night at 12:14 a.m. Pacific time. He said tomorrow around 4 p.m. Pacific time, he would be doing the live stream of FSD Beta version 12. So a little bit unclear, since that's obviously just over into midnight or past midnight, if he's referring to today, Friday, or tomorrow being Saturday. Most people, I think, would be referring to Friday in that sort of a context, which means that this should have happened about an hour and 20 minutes ago. As of the live stream right now, it has not happened yet. We'll see if there's any new tweets from Elon right at the end of this, but we're still waiting on this, so we'll see if that comes later tonight. I was hoping it would happen before the episode, but we'll keep an eye out for that. But for FSD version 11, version 11.4.7 has now started to roll out to early testers. So we talked about the release notes yesterday. Again, those are all still the same as the prior version. But obviously Tesla does that on occasion where there are still some updates or improvements on some of those changes that were made in the prior iteration that did have new release notes. One such change, maybe not super relevant to the performance of the software, but one thing that is noticeable from FSD version 11.4.7 is that the turn signal camera seems to be much more, or the side repeater camera seems to be much more color correct versus previous versions. So Mike from cyberowners.com here posting a comparison of the same sort of turn signal or side repeater camera capture from FSD Beta version 11.4.6 and version 11.4.7, and you can see that the color profile looks to be a lot more accurate in 11.4.7. Now, in terms of the impact on the software and FSD functionality, it probably is meaningless. This is probably more of just a color grading thing that's happening with the display of the camera versus anything to do with how the colors are being processed for actual FSD. Because remember, Elon had previously mentioned that has been converted over to sort of the raw photon level, which would mean that this color grading stuff is really just superfluous to what's actually making its way into the code for FSD. But still, nice to see, nice improvement for those vehicles and for the user experience, which is good. We've seen this similar improvement with hardware 4. So hopefully we'll get some more hardware 4 versus, FSD Beta version 11.4.7 hardware 3, just to kind of see if there really is, an even more significant step forward from hardware 4 than maybe the color grading kind of made it appear previously. All right, next we've got just, I guess, a couple of quick updates on supercharging. So Dan Ives sent a new note out to clients today, posted a part of that on X today, saying that they have done a deeper dive into the impact of potential revenue from Tesla Supercharger network and obviously opening that up. They say that ultimately by 2030, they expect this to turn into a $10 to $20 billion business. Of course, talking about revenue there. Obviously that would, equate to Tesla's overall business doing about $330 million or $30 billion in revenue. So about 3 to 6% of that total. I'm not sure exactly. I'd have to go back and look at how this compares to my model. I'm guessing this is probably higher since I haven't updated that since we've gotten the Supercharger news. So I need to go back and do that, but kind of gives you a sense for, what at least one Wall Street analyst is thinking. That may have helped the stock out a little bit today as with that note from Wedbush. And then on version 4 supercharging, Felix Hamer on X posting a video of the new Supercharger V4 sort of payment processing process, for lack of a better word. But we'll just play a quick portion of this video. You can see sort of tap to pay being utilized on the screen here. I'll zoom in a bit. You can obviously there's some issues with capturing the screen on video, but shows just that that process in progress looks pretty simple. I think obviously the app way easier, but for anyone that was kind of wondering how that would work, pretty intuitive, but that's how it'll work. See if we can get maybe a close up on the screen there. You can kind of see a little bit what it shows on that small display screen on the Supercharger. All right, next, just a really quick Highland rumor. We're not going to spend much time on this, but Chris Jong on Twitter kind of teasing this, I guess not giving much context, but showing a picture of a calendar with something wonderful is about to happen on September 1st, so next Friday. We'll keep an eye on it. There's a lot of people saying that this is a teaser for Project Highland or for some media event relating to Project Highland. We'll see. Doesn't necessarily mean that, but something to keep an eye on for next week, and I'm sure if that is the case, we'll probably hear some more rumors about that somewhat soon. All right, next we've got an interesting report here from JD Power. So as we often see, they release these owner surveys broken down into various categories. So for this time, they've released their tech innovation survey. And kind of a couple interesting things. We'll talk about Tesla's performance here in a second, but as we can see, the very first part of this press release is talking about how battery electric vehicle owners experience more problems with advanced technology than do owners of internal combustion engine vehicles, according to the JD Power 2023 US Tech Experience Index study released today. So they go on to say that 17 of the 21 advanced features offered in both fuel versions have more quality problems per 100 vehicles for BEVs than for ICE vehicles. But look at this right here, excluding Tesla. Why are they excluding Tesla? I don't know. It is still very relevant to understand that breakdown, but if you're going with this as your headline, you should probably be including all BEVs, especially the manufacturer that is the majority of sales in the United States. I think Tesla's market share around 60%. So you're talking about how a segment performs, but excluding 60% of it, it seems like that should be something that is made a little bit more, like obviously they mention it here, but it should be probably taken into a little bit more account when this is sort of the leading headline that you're going with. So very misleading because yes, we can see that it excludes Tesla down here, but again, not in the headline that they published. So I don't know why they did that, chose to do that. well, I could have some suspicions about why, but interesting to see that. And again, they mentioned this a couple of times. I think there's another excluding Teslas here. Yeah, the total vehicle problems in the IQS is 46% higher among BEVs, excluding Tesla, than ICE vehicles, and satisfaction is lower among owners of BEVs across the 9 appeal categories, which I think appeal is not initial quality, but quality is sort of after that, if I recall correctly. So anyway, just kind of thought that was, I don't know if amusing is the right word, but kind of interesting to see from JD Power. And then if we scroll down to Tesla's performance, so as usual with JD Power, Tesla does not get to appear on the actual full ranking system. So of course they say that Genesis and Hyundai were the 2 leaders on the US Tech Experience Index study for overall innovation. Genesis with a score of 656, but let's scroll down, Tesla completely obliterating that with a 773 score. But because Tesla does not allow JD Power to, or does not just pass over owner information in states that they're not required to JD Power, like literally all of these other brands do, because Tesla doesn't do that, they don't get to be qualified for an official ranking. So I'm glad that Tesla doesn't do that, but clearly you can see everyone else playing the game. So anyway, Tesla, the leader in the luxury or premium segment, and then we can see in the sort of mass market segment, obviously scores quite a bit lower for the tech experience portion of this study. So a couple interesting things there, but ultimately no surprise with Tesla sort of leading the pack on that metric. All right, next we've got an interesting new channel on YouTube. This person is doing Adrian CG on YouTube is doing drone videos of the Giga Texas site, and they look to be really good quality. So exciting that we seem to have a drone flyover person out there ready to go when construction gets more underway. We're not exactly clear on what stage it's at right now, but I did put a link in the description down to this video if you want to check this channel out and keep an eye on it. Hopefully we'll see consistent videos from this channel. Again, looks like really good quality, so excited about that. And then the last few things here, the UAW has announced today that they have authorized a vote that would allow the UAW to strike if that is something that they feel like they need to do. So they're not on strike yet. Obviously the current contract, as we have previously talked about, runs through September or to September 14th, not sure which. But they did vote, and 97% of UAW members voted in favor of authorizing a strike if that should come to be necessary. Now, obviously, a vote like that, if they were to not authorize this, that would significantly reduce their negotiating leverage. So not too surprising to see, the results in such strong favor of that, as presumably that's been explained to people. But still, obviously, high approval rate for that authorization. So we'll keep an eye on that. That's going to be a building story here over the next 3 weeks. And then separately from the, I guess more broad UAW workforce, the UAW and Ultium, so the GM and LG combination joint venture, I think is how it's structured. UAW and Ultium have agreed on higher pay, 25% on average for their workers. I think this is about 1,100 workers at one of their plants. So very minor in terms of the, I think 150,000 workforce for the total UAW, but interesting to kind of see that separate agreement, and could give a little bit of context for where things could end up in general with things more broadly with the UAW. And then SpaceX today, they did their static fire test for Super Heavy Booster 9. I think the second static fire test for this booster, but very successful test. So 31 out of 33 engines were fired for the full duration of the test. So I think, SpaceX probably quite happy with that. Usually they're a little bit more cautious with the static fire for, software controls on the engines. If anything is flagging incorrectly, they'll shut those down. So doesn't necessarily mean that they would have for a full test, orbital test flight situation, but some good learnings most likely for SpaceX, and obviously fun to see that static fire test today with the water deluge system, and should be a good sign for us getting closer to the second orbital test flight. Could happen even in September, so we'll keep an eye out for that, and very excited for it. And then the last thing, I was just going to refresh here on Elon's page just to see if we do have anything with FSD yet. I'm guessing probably not, but we'll just see. Yeah. Elon did comment on this post from John Ehrlichman about Tesla's stock performance each year, saying big swings, but ultimately very much upward. So I don't really have any further comments on that, but hopefully we continue to see that sort of progress in the future. All right, that'll wrap it up for today and for the week. As always, thank you for listening. Make sure you're subscribed and signed up for notifications. You can also find me on X @Tesla Podcast, and we'll see you on Monday for the August 28th episode of Tesla Daily. Thank you.